Hello, I'd like to welcome you to this introductory webinar on the GEO Knowledge Hub. The GEO Knowledge Hub team has put together this first in a series of webinar updates that we are planning to bring to you over the next few months. The objectives of this webinar are to first and foremost introduce the GEO Knowledge Hub to the GEO community so that everyone interested can gain an understanding of the way the Knowledge Hub is shaping up, what its initial look and feel is like, the kinds of information it contains, and the way that that information is organized. Secondly, we'd like to highlight the added value that the Knowledge Hub brings to the community by showcasing a few Earth observation applications that are being developed within the GEO work program, and then bringing together the various components of that application into what we are calling a knowledge package. This will facilitate the discovery of the application that has been developed and expand its use. And then lastly, we'd like to convince those who are working on Earth observation applications of the utility and the importance of adopting an open science approach so that they may eventually contribute their knowledge to the Knowledge Hub and thus allow others to adapt and apply the Earth observation-based solution they have developed to other local environments. So the outline of this webinar is going to be as follows. We have a few presentations that we're going to show you. First of all, we'll start with this introduction to the GEO Knowledge Hub. Then we'll focus in on a few of the knowledge packages that are featured currently within the Knowledge Hub. We'll take a look at a few examples of those. Then we'll cover how to become a knowledge provider. This will all be followed by a live question and answer session in which you may pose your questions and answers to the moderator, and then the teams on hand will be available to respond to you. So the starting point for the GEO Knowledge Hub is the recognition that in order for an application to be taken up and used by the community needs to be able to learn about it and to reproduce that application. And all of this being done in an open science context will certainly facilitate the uptake and reproduction of that particular application. And when we talk about open science, we're referring to an umbrella term that comprises a set of practices that encourage sharing scientific findings by making all stages of the research process accessible and reusable. More specifically, the U.S. National Science Foundation Subcommittee on Replicability in Science defines reproducibility as the ability of a researcher to duplicate the results of a prior study using the same materials as were used by the original investigator. That is, a second researcher might use the same raw data to build the same analysis files and implement the same statistical analysis in an attempt to yield the same results. So in other words, reproducibility is a minimum necessary condition for a finding to be believable and informative. However, when we look across the landscape in terms of research, we find that reproducibility is far from a common practice. A survey that was conducted by Nature Science magazine in 2016 showed that there are, in actual fact, irreproducible experiments across all domains of science. This chart here shows the results of that survey, in which we can see, for example, on the left-hand side, the top bar refers to the domain of chemistry, that over 80% of the experiments and results that were achieved through research within the chemistry domain were found to be non-reproducible or irreproducible. If we go down on that same chart towards the bottom and we look at applications related to Earth and the environment, we see that over 60% of applications that have been developed are deemed to be irreproducible. In other words, the work that was done is either not understood or not clearly defined or not clearly explained and is simply not reproducible. And then we see a similar conclusion here over on the right-hand side in this circle chart, in which 52% of the scientists surveyed said that, yes, there is a significant crisis in terms of research being reproducible. And then 38% said that there was a slight crisis. So you have over or roughly about 90% of the research that's been done is deemed to be not reproducible. So this was the starting point for the GEO Knowledge Hub. We wanted to take those applications that are being developed in the work program and find a way to make them reproducible so that they are applicable at a broader scales. So what are some of the reasons why applications featuring Earth observations are irreproducible? There are a number of reasons for this. Namely, there's not enough documentation on how the experiment was conducted or the data generated. The data itself used to generate the original results may be unavailable. The software used to generate those original results is perhaps unavailable. It's difficult to recreate the software environment, the libraries, versions, and so forth used to generate the original results. And then the actual computational steps themselves may not be well explained or easy to find. So the Knowledge Hub aims to provide the information necessary to, in a first instance, reproduce the given application. So once again, reproducibility refers to the ability of a researcher to duplicate the results of a prior study using the same materials and procedures as were used by the original investigator. So that's what we see over here on the left-hand side. In the middle, we move on to something that's known as replicability. And that refers to the ability of a researcher to duplicate the results of a prior study if the same procedures are followed, but new or different data are collected. And then if we look at the right-hand side, we come to the point of generalizability, and that refers to the results of a study in which other contexts or other populations or other data are used from the original one. So this is ultimately the goal of the information that we're packaging within the GEO Knowledge Hub. Again, going to the left-hand side, in a first instance, you want to be able to reproduce, to understand exactly what was done by the original investigator through his or her application. But then, because we are encouraging this information to be provided in an open science context, that information is all open. The data, the algorithms, the methodology, and so forth is open to inspection. And therefore, we can move to the middle stage here, replicability, where the same analysis can be performed, but using different data. And you'll see how this applies later on in some of the examples that we're going to show. And then ultimately, the goal of the GEO Knowledge Hub is to make that application generalizable to anywhere in the world. That's the goal. We may not be able to always reach that target, but nonetheless, if an application that was developed, say for, well, as we'll see, for land classification in Brazil can be then applied to other areas around the globe, then we will have reached the highest goal of the GEO Knowledge Hub, and that is to take that application and make it usable, generalizable to other areas around the world. So now the question is, what will be the source of the Earth observation applications that are featured within the GEO Knowledge Hub? Well, the GEO Work Program, with its flagships, initiatives, and community activities, represents a broad spectrum of scientific and authoritative knowledge that's being developed across the GEO community. And in many of these cases, valuable Earth observation applications and solutions are being put together. However, these solutions featuring Earth observations are at the moment scattered throughout the GEO Work Program and are not necessarily organized into a single repository that would facilitate their discovery and uptake. If we consider, for example, the Global Observation System for Mercury or the GEO Global Agricultural Monitoring flagships, or the land use land cover classification being done by the Brazilian Data Cube, the GEO Human Planet Initiative, We'll note that the work of each of these activities of the GEO Work Program provide Earth observation solutions that could have a wider impact if they were disseminated by means of the GEO Knowledge Hub. If we were to focus in, for example, on the Send2Agri Earth observation solution for crop monitoring example, we would note that there are several what we would call resource components that comprise this particular Earth observation application. So they range from publications, which describe the methodologies being used and from peer-reviewed journals. Then we would note the different types of data that are being used, whether they're remotely sensed or in situ or both in some cases. We would note that a great deal of open source software has been produced that is applicable in this particular solution, as well as the computing environment in which that source was meant to run. We would find that there are outputs in the form of maps or depictions of the particular analysis that was performed. And then there would be a wealth of training material. All of these components comprise kind of the end-to-end information chain for this particular application of Earth observations. And as mentioned earlier, these tend to be scattered now throughout the activity itself, throughout the flagship, and are not necessarily combined into a single package. This is what the GEO Knowledge Hub is aiming to do. The GEO Knowledge Hub, in working with the GEO knowledge providers, are looking to identify and prepare all of these knowledge resources so that they can be organized into a knowledge package and be ready for the end user. Now, let's see the GEO Knowledge Hub in action. So here we have the landing page of the GEO Knowledge Hub. This is the page you would see when you first come to the Knowledge Hub and you're attempting as a user to discover and access a knowledge package and its related resources. This page would also be used by knowledge providers who wish to register and manage knowledge packages that they contribute. And then thirdly, it would also be used for those who wish to organize thematic communities around various GEO work program activities. So now let's put ourselves in the shoes of a user and imagine that we're looking for a solution that will allow us to do crop monitoring. So if we do a search on the word crop, we would enter the word crop in the search window up above. We would land on this page with a list of results. And in particular, the first one indicates that it is a knowledge package, and it is called Building a Crop Map over South Africa using Send2Agri. The other results listed below this particular entry show related resources that may be of interest, such as publication or an in situ data set, and many other things. On the left-hand side, you can see a set of filters that may be applied, such as by keyword, resource type, or file format. So let's assume that we want to know more about the knowledge package itself. So we would click on the first entry, on the package entry, and we would land on this page that provides a brief description of the package along with an introductory video. On the top, you can see who created this knowledge package, and you can see its digital object identifier, which is a unique identifier and allows you to always locate it. An interesting feature towards the bottom is that related resources, which basically complement this package, are available, such as publications, data sets, links to open source repositories in GitHub, and other cloud resources. In this particular instance, the Knowledge Hub team worked with the European Space Agency's Food Security Thematic Exploration Platform, where the Send2Agri analytics platform was deployed. And this means that it is now running successfully on their thematic exploration platform, which allows users to access it quickly without having to download and install it locally on their own machine. Another important feature here uh, will highlight user experiences with Send to Agri. These are shared through a blog post or a video or any other format that the user would see relevant to show how they used this particular solution, and thus allow new users to get an idea, get a feel for how this particular application has been used, and then determine whether it would fit their purposes. A final feature to take note of are questions and answers. These are questions and answers that will be noted between users who have gone through the package but might still encounter difficulties. For instance, here with the training data set to create the crop map, we would need a place where users can ask questions and have a direct connection with the provider who can help them and guide them through the process. Finally, it will be possible to organize knowledge packages around communities. So here we see, for example, a GeoGlam community page that will feature the records we have seen before, user stories, questions and answers, and basically will allow users to have a quick access to relevant resources linked with the work carried out by GeoGlam. It will also be the place where active people in the GeoGlam community, the knowledge providers, will be able to curate the records and interact with the end users. Now, I'd like to say just a few more words about this concept of open knowledge. As alluded to earlier, one of the strengths of the GEO Knowledge Hub is the fact that the applications featured within the Knowledge Hub will have been developed in an open science context. And this open science context is what leads to full accessibility to the work being done and thereby increases knowledge. By open science, we actually are talking about a variety of aspects of the research process. So for example, we touch on open access, that everyone should be able to access and reuse scientific publications fully, immediately after publication, free of charge and without restrictions. We're also thinking about open data, the fact that the data needed to reproduce the results reported in scientific publications should be released publicly under an open license. We're also referencing open software, that any kind of software that is developed during the research process should be released under an open license. We're referencing open reproducible research, in that the programming code or workflow needed to reproduce the analysis underlying the results, for example, figures, tables, and numbers, in scientific publications should be released under an open license. And finally, open education, whereby the teaching material should be released under an open license, allowing reuse and modification by others. In other words, the overarching goal is to make open science the new norm across disciplines and to create a scientific landscape that will allow everyone to verify, understand, and adopt new research results. Openness in science and education can help address the local, regional, and global needs of society by creating an inclusive and interconnected environment. And finally, an open environment provides equal opportunities and chances for all to gain scientific literacy and benefit from new knowledge and innovation. GEO strongly encourages practices that comply with open science principles to increase the impact of the GEO work program and shorten the time from discovery to application. There is a wealth of economic and intellectual advantages associated with this shift towards open knowledge. For example, greater access to scientific inputs and outputs can increase scientific efficiency and productivity through reducing duplication, allowing research from the same data, and multiplying opportunities. Open access to scientific outputs allow for greater evaluation and scrutiny by the scientific community, which means more accurate replication and validation of research results. Indeed, openness to data is one of the main contributions to science's self-correction principle. Then there are economic benefits. Science plays a key role in today's knowledge economies, and increased access to research results, including data, can have a positive impact not only on scientific systems, but also innovation. Global benefits would include promotion of collaboration and faster knowledge transfer for a better understanding of global challenges and so-called wicked problems. And then finally, public disclosure and engagement are enhanced when publicly funded projects are made accessible to promote greater awareness among citizens and promote public trust and support for public policies and investment in research. Indeed, open science also promotes citizen science in experiments and data collection. In terms of innovation, open science can reduce delays in the reuse of scientific research, including articles and data, and promote a swifter path from research to innovation to produce new products and services. And perhaps nowhere has this been demonstrated more vividly than in the current pandemic with COVID-19 and the development of vaccines. Finally, the GEO Knowledge Hub will ensure sustainability and reproducibility of short-term funded projects. So, how do you become a knowledge provider? The GEO Knowledge Hub team is ready to work in close collaboration with GEO Work Program activities to register their Earth observation solutions and knowledge into the GEO Knowledge Hub. The steps required to do so are quite simple. First, we would identify the Earth observation solution that is to be shared. Then you would contact the GEO Knowledge Hub team to start collaboration in identifying the various essential knowledge resources that comprise your Earth observation solution. Finally, with the help of the GEO Knowledge Hub team, you would be invited to co-create the knowledge package based on your knowledge resources to be featured within the Knowledge Hub. So far, the GEO Knowledge Hub team has collaborated with 4 GEO Work Program activities, as mentioned early on, the GEO Human Planet Initiative, GeoGLAM, the Global Observation System for Mercury, and the Brazilian Data Cube. These 4 initiatives have been pioneers in working and sharing their knowledge and Earth observation solutions with the GEO Knowledge Hub team. And you're going to hear about their experiences in the next 3 presentations. So as a closing thought, the GEO Knowledge Hub represents a collective tool to enhance community intelligence through open science to address societal and environmental challenges. We look forward to working with you to promote your Earth observation applications through the GEO Knowledge Hub in an open science context. And we're very happy to communicate with you at any point along the way. Here is the GEO Knowledge Hub team. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a good webinar.